I knew Lily could smell it before I could name it, the trace of something on my skin that wasn't perfume. Not guilt exactly, not yet, but the warmth of a thought carried too long. She stood in the kitchen doorway that Monday afternoon, backpack sliding off one shoulder, eyes darting between me and the mug. I was rinsing like it might confess for me. Is Ethan coming today? She asked, too casual, the way a cat pretends not to notice a bird. 3 o'clock, I said, glancing at the clock that already read 257. SAT math. You wanted the extra practice, remember? She pressed her lips together, a small nod. Right. I could feel her studying me the way she studies word problems, looking for the trick in the language, the variable I'm hiding. I tucked a strand of hair behind my ear and busied myself with the dish towel. If I kept moving, nothing would settle. The doorbell rang. Bright, polite, on time, and Lily's gaze flicked to the entryway before returning to my face. Like she expected to catch something there. I set the towel down. My heart remembered something it had forgotten. That it could lift instead of sink. Hey, Mrs. Bennett, Ethan called as I opened the door. The spring light fell behind him, a golden outline around his shoulders. He wore a navy hoodie and a canvas backpack, the uniform of a young man who hadn't yet learned to armor himself. His smile was easy, a little shy, and far too dangerous for a house like mine. Hi, Ethan, I said. Come in. He stepped past me and the faint scent of laundry, soap and air after rain edged into the hallway. Lily's sneakers squeaked against the tile as she crossed the kitchen to meet us. Chin tilted higher than usual. That careful teenage combination of bravado and curiosity. Hey, she said, to him and not to me. Hey, Lily, he replied, shifting his weight. Ready for some quadratic fun? She snorted, pretending she wasn't amused. As ready as anyone can be. I watched them move into the dining room. Watched the way Ethan took a respectful distance at the table, his laptop, her notebook. His hand hovering above the page like a second pulse waiting to line up with the first. I told myself the feeling in my chest was maternal relief. Nothing more, a mother grateful for help. A mother grateful her daughter might believe in herself for once. I told myself many things that afternoon. None of them were complete lies, all of them were incomplete truths. From the kitchen doorway I had that sliver of a view, the long line of Lily's hair falling over her shoulder. The clean shape of Ethan's profile as he asked her how she'd translate a word problem into an equation. He spoke gently, patient without sounding like it, and when she answered, he didn't flatter or correct so much as adjust the angle of her thinking. As if he'd turned a mirror until the light finally found her. It was not the first time I noticed how kind he was. It was the first time I noticed how young. They bent over the problem set, pencils scratching. My phone buzzed with a message I didn't read. Outside, a wind shook the maple leaves and sent their shadows rippling across the wall like fish. I busied myself with dinner prep, knife against cutting board, the rhythm slightly off. Every few minutes Lily's voice would rise, triumphant or irritated, and I'd find myself smiling into a bowl. An observer in my own house, a spectator at something holy and ordinary. At 415, there was the scrape of chairs. Break? Ethan asked. Brain fuel? Lily hesitated. Can we go over one more? I keep mixing up the signs. Sure, he said, and they leaned back in. By 430, she was rubbing at her temples. Okay, now I need that break. I poured lemonade and brought out a plate of sliced strawberries. Lily took hers and disappeared down the hall to the bathroom. Ethan stood, stretching a little, and when he turned toward the kitchen, his eyes met mine in the doorway. It was a small collision, nothing anyone would hear. But something inside me rang. Thank you for the lemon? He began, and then Lily's door clicked shut. The word hung there, halved. You're good with her, I said softly, before I could stop myself. He shrugged, suddenly bashful. She's easy to be good with. She's smarter than she thinks. She just needs someone to slow the clock down. I wanted to say me too. Slow it down for me, for the parts of my life that got away while I wasn't looking. Instead I set the strawberries on the counter, my fingers trembling in that way that has nothing to do with cold. I appreciate you, I said, and the words felt too large, too bright in my mouth. Something flickered behind his eyes, not boldness, exactly, but recognition. As if he'd caught the tail of a thought I didn't realize I'd let loose. For an instant the kitchen felt crowded with the unspoken, with the almosts and the maybes. And the should-nots that turn the air sweet and dangerous. The bathroom door opened. Lily patted back, ponytail swinging, gaze alert. She took in the lemonade, the strawberries. How close or far apart we were, the angle of my shoulders. She has always been good at geometry. You guys look busy, she said lightly. But the words carried more weight than they needed to. Just grabbing a snack, I said. Do you want some? No, thanks. She picked up her pencil. We should finish the set. Right, Ethan said, throat clearing. He followed her back to the table. I watched him go, the line of his back, drawing a thin, perilous path through my house. When they were settled again, Lily didn't look at the problem right away. She tapped her eraser against the page, watching him. So, she asked, almost lazy. How long have you been tutoring my mom's friends' kids? Ethan blinked. Just this semester? Why? Just curious. Her tone was nothing and everything. She wasn't accusing me of anything. She was cornering a shadow, seeing if it would dart. I stepped back into the kitchen and steadied my hands on the counter. I could tell myself there was nothing to see, not yet. But then I caught my reflection in the window, the lifted chin, the color high in my cheeks, and knew Lily was right to be curious. Something had shifted in this house. If I couldn't name it, it was only because naming makes things real. A timer I hadn't set went off in my head. A series of moments counting down to when the line would be crossed, when the word misses. Then it would feel too formal in his mouth, when Lily would hear it and know. I didn't know what to do with that certainty. Except hold it like a live coal and pretend it was a secret source of heat. At 500, they packed up. Ethan thanked Lily for working hard. Lily said thanks without looking up. I walked him to the door because I always walked people to the door. Not because I needed those 7 private steps to remember what wanting felt like. Same time Thursday? He asked. Yes, I said, and my voice was steady even as the rest of me wasn't. Drive safe. He nodded, then paused. You, too, he said, and it didn't make sense. What did it mean to drive safe inside your own life? But the way he said it made my breath catch. The door closed. Lily's footsteps came up behind me. Quick and light, too measured to be careless. Mom? She said. I turned. She studied my face for a heartbeat longer than normal. Then she smiled. The kind of smile you give someone when you want them to know. You've seen the thread they're trying to tuck away. Nothing, she said. Just, don't forget we have the counselor meeting tomorrow. I won't, I promised. But that night, after she'd gone to bed, and the house fell into the soft hum of the refrigerator and the long breath of the furnace, I stood in the dark dining room and touched my fingertips to the table where his hand had been. It felt like reaching toward a story that hadn't decided how it would end. I told myself I would be careful. I told myself the line was still intact. And somewhere down the hall, my daughter, my almost grown, too perceptive daughter, turned over in her sleep and dreamed, perhaps, of crossing finish lines. That Thursday the light fell a little later, a spring habit I'd begun to resent. It made the afternoons feel longer, more available to thoughts I didn't have the discipline to refuse. Lily texted at 241, practice ran long. Home around 6, don't wait dinner. The message sat on my screen like permission I hadn't asked for. Ethan arrived at 3 on the dot, as always, carrying the same canvas backpack and a careful smile that tried not to want anything. I told myself I was grateful for his reliability, the way a roof is grateful for nails. I told myself many safe, house-shaped things. Lily's running late, I said, before he could ask. Track practice. Oh, he said, weight shifting. Should I come back later? You can, if you want, I heard myself say. Or we could go over the new SAT changes together. So I can help her review this weekend. It was a plausible sentence. And that's what made it dangerous: truth at the edges, heat in the middle. He hesitated, then nodded. That's smart. We set up at the dining table, his laptop open, my notebook. A decoy beside it, 2 glasses of water sweating rings onto cork coasters. I'd bought during a season when I believed order could be arranged and kept. He walked me through question types and timing strategies. How to skip cleanly and circle back, how to trust the first instinct when the second only came from panic. His voice was steady in that way that makes you want to lean toward it. At some point I looked up and realized we were sitting closer than we had to. Not touching, nothing so obvious, but along the same line of air. I could feel the warmth of him the way you can feel the oven. Preheat before the light says it's ready. You're good at this, I said, pen idle in my hand. At what? His smile tilted. He knew. Teaching. Making hard things sound survivable. He huffed us off.